It was always the Jags.
It's always the Jags. It's always the Jags.
Always the Jags.
Welcome into Always the Jags. This is your podcast for everything Jacksonville, everything Jaguars, everything Duval. Guys, first of all, I have to start this episode by saying I have the most freaking amazing and the best sister-in-law in the entire world. That's right. There are no sister-in-laws like mine because I am now officially outfitted in my Trevor Lawrence Jacksonville Jaguars jersey because that's what she got me for our anniversary for my wife and I. So, I mean, you know, I'm sure some of you have some pretty great sister-in-laws out there, but none of them are quite like mine. I mean, look at how good this thing looks. This is amazing. So, you know, there's nothing like we can't do anything without our family, and I am blessed to have an absolutely amazing one. So I need to make sure that they know that and they hear that. So thank you. I love you guys, and I'm so glad that now everyone can hear me and see me in my official Jaguars drip. That's what we're talking about. And this is like the perfect episode for me to debut and be officially wearing what I should have been wearing this entire time, because I don't think I've been as excited to be a Jaguars fan since Tony Baselli signed my Jaguars hat and then we hired him as EVP. And if you know why, that means you read the title of this podcast, and that means you've been following my podcasts and my episodes and what I think the Jaguars should do for a very long time. And that is because the Jacksonville Jaguars traded up with the Browns and made sure that we got Travis freaking Hunter. Travis Hunter, the guy I've been hammering about for the entire offseason, the best wide receiver and the best cornerback in the entire draft, the two-way player. Like, people throw around the term generational prospects pretty loosely, right? And it can be kind of annoying because they just toss it out like it doesn't mean anything. But there's, like, honestly, in the past 5-10 years, there is no one, I don't think, that's more generational than this. There's never been a two-way player. It just hasn't happened. Like, I can't think of one. I can't tell you one. And here we are at the precipice selecting a player who will be here for years to come. You know, we'll have him under control at least for the next 5 years, and he'll play both ways on a rookie contract. And he will be, we could have this is going to be very lofty praise, but we could have at least one of the best wide receiver duos, if not the best wide receiver duo in the NFL by the end of next year or the year after that. Because Brian Thomas Jr. is a certified number one wide receiver. He's already a beast, and he's already approaching some of those top tier guys that are second wide receivers like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. I think he's already passed Jordan Addison, right? And he's already passed T. Higgins. And so having another dynamic weapon on the outside is only going to make Brian Thomas Jr. better and allow him to continue to rise up. And it feels like the Jaguars are trying to do, they don't want to be in the situation of the Bengals where now they are paying both their wide receivers and their quarterback at the same time. And it's a crap ton of money. And I think the Jaguars are like, you know what? Let's get two guys that can emulate that. And also, we fixed a huge hole in our secondary. Travis Hunter can be our number one cornerback, and we can slowly work him into that too, because Tyson Campbell will absolutely dominate as a number two wide receiver. And I've always said that. I felt like he was a good number one, right? Like, he's a solid, a lot of teams would love to have him as a number one, and we are paying him with this extension as a number one. But allowing him to be the number two and then allowing Travis Hunter to play second fiddle to Brian Thomas Jr. is perfect. Absolutely perfect. And it's exactly what we needed. And the Jaguars made a huge splash and a huge move. This is a seat ceiling move. You could tell we've got that Rams philosophy of forget them picks, because we went up and got our guy. And I think let me give my full analysis of it right now, right? Because for a lot of times I was hoping that the offseason would shake out in a way that would allow him to fall to us. Because if we got him at 5, it would have been an absolute steal. But that means he would have had to make it through the Patriots, through the Giants, through the Browns, even the Titans. All 4 of those teams could have used a player like Travis Hunter. And then free agency came, and I was like, okay, some things might shake up, and some people might be around because the Titans need a quarterback more than they need Travis Hunter. So do the Browns, and so do the Giants. And I was like, so if they end up not finding their answer, they may end up, or maybe the Giants will try to trade with the Browns so they can get their quarterback or something like that. None of that really happened. Like the Patriots appeared to take themselves out of the sweepstakes by getting Carlton Davis and Stephon Diggs because they probably were like, you know what, Travis Hunter isn't going to fall to us. And then the Giants, I don't even like watching the draft. I don't know what happened, honestly, because the Giants probably felt like Shadur Sanders is not going to end up falling to them. So they got and um, Russell Wilson and Jameson Winston. And so it kind of seemed like, okay, it might go Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders, and then Travis Hunter to the Giants, even though they signed Paulson Adebo at cornerback. And then the Patriots, I think it was pretty much written in the sand that they were going to take Will Campbell. And then a lot of mocks had us getting Mason Graham, or the wrinkle in there was Abdul Carter, right? And like if the Browns had traded Myles Garrett, I think it would have been a pretty good sign that they were going to take Abdul Carter, and then maybe the Giants would have taken Shadur Sanders. But here we are, draft time. Browns are all talking about how much they like Travis Hunter, and the Jaguars say, we like him more, we'll give you all the stuff, right? So let's look at the trade that we did. All right, so we gave them our number 5 overall pick, obviously. We gave them a 2026 first round pick. So that means the Browns are going to have our first next year. We also gave up our second round pick, 36th overall, and we gave up our 4th round pick. In exchange, we got back a 4th round pick from the Browns. So I think we just kind of swapped spots there. And we got back a 6th pick, and then we got the number 2 pick to pick Travis Hunter. So overall, fantastic. The result is fantastic because we got Travis Hunter, right? Like it's hard to look at the cost and be like, yes, but we got Travis Hunter, right? Even if, and my thing is just the Browns were driving a hard bargain, right? Because it's a little bit different when you're trading with a team. And here's my thought. It's a little bit different when you're trading with a team that doesn't need the player you're taking, right? So they can drive a hard bargain, but if they're not interested in the player that you're trading with them, if you're just trying to snipe another team, the price is different. The price is different. Like last year, the Eagles went from number like 13 up to 11, and all they traded was a 3rd round pick, and they traded with the Cowboys so they could leapfrog another team to get the player that they wanted. It didn't cost nearly as much. And they were moving up in the 1st round. But if you're trying to convince a team not to take a certain player because you want them and you're trading with them, I think that's what made the price go up. Because the Jaguars not only have to give the Browns a deal that they feel is worth it to move down, they have to give the Browns a deal to make them feel like they should give up on Travis Hunter. Essentially, the Browns are trading Travis Hunter to us, to the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? Because that's the player that it seemed like they were going to take. And I'm pretty sure that's the player they were going to take. So when I first saw the cost, I was like, man, that's a lot. Because it is a lot, right? Like you are giving up 3 starters potentially. Now, Travis Hunter, he's at least worth 2 first-round picks, right? Because he plays cornerback and wide receiver. He's a first-round cornerback and a first-round wide receiver. So he's already worth that. Like that just in and of itself. Like, and taking him now allows you to fill those 2 spots right now. So next year, you know, if you go deep into the playoffs, who cares where that pick is? It's going to be at the bottom of the 1st. Totally worth it, right? But giving up a 2nd is another starter, potentially. You know, it is another starter. And then those other picks don't really, 3rd and 4th. I think I would have been really comfortable and felt like 100% if we still had our 2nd rounder. If we did something where like maybe we even threw in Gabe Davis or something, I don't know, and agreed to pay. Maybe if we threw in Gabe Davis and agreed to pay his contract for this year, and then next year they can do whatever. I would have preferred us keep our 2nd, give up our 1st from next year. That's fine, but give our 3rd and our 4th round pick, and then we don't get anything back from the Browns except the number 2. Like that pick would have felt better, but I think the Browns probably just told the Jaguars, if you want us to not take Travis Hunter, we're going to need your 2nd round pick and your 1st round pick from next year. And so all those other picks, the Jaguars just kind of adjusted it to make it make sense for us. So we still have 2 3rd rounders, so that's not bad. But we got our guy. We got the guy. We didn't get our. Let me rephrase that. We didn't get our guy. We got the guy. We got the guy of this draft. He is the best player in this draft. He might have been the best player in the last couple of drafts and the next couple of drafts coming up, because there's no player that plays 2 positions. And sure, like when it comes to extension time, what is he going to make $60 million a year because he plays two positions? I don't know. I don't think I don't think we're gonna have to pay him like a quarterback salary and a wide receiver salary. He will become the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL and the highest paid cornerback in the NFL, no doubt about it. I don't think he's going to have both salaries, right? Like, it's going to be expensive, but it's not going to be that expensive. So for the rest of our time with Travis Hunter, we're going to be saving money just in that he'll play both spots. Now, maybe does that shorten his time in the future in the NFL? All that's in the future. But for right now, we didn't get our guy, we got the guy. And every Jaguars fan should be excited. And James Gladstone, it's no surprise. I mean, he comes from Les Snead. And what's their motto? Forget them picks. Forget them picks. And it's funny because like usually people use that to pick like, established players, and we're using that to just trade up for. It's hard to justify trading that much away for a player that you don't know is going to pan out because the drafts are, kind of a crapshoot. But I think if there's anyone to take a gamble on, even over Bryce Young or anybody to take a gamble on, it's Travis Hunter. If there's anyone that deserves a quarterback haul, it's Travis Hunter, right? And, I'm like, man, I hope we're not going to ruin ourselves for the future. And honestly, we're not. We're not. Because think about it. For the next few years, our wide receiver room is going to be very, very manageable, right? So after next year, we can get rid of De'Ami Brown. I mean, maybe he'll stay. Maybe he'll be good. Maybe we'll want to re-sign him. But De'Ami Brown and Gabe Davis probably won't be here. So we'll have a wide receiver room that collectively might cost under $5 million if we give Parker Washington a modest extension, or just draft a slot receiver. And we will have two dynamic alpha wide receivers who are used to being wide receiver ones. Like, again, remember, both of these guys are wide receiver ones. Travis Hunter was a wide receiver one at Colorado State, and Brian Thomas Jr. became our number one wide receiver after playing second to Malik Neighbors. So we've got two alpha dogs there. Brenton Strange might get a modest extension, and then our offensive line looks. I'm glad with the choices that we made in free agency for offensive line. So it's all around great news. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, do it. Because even if you look at all the blockbuster trades that have happened in recent years, like look at the Miami Dolphins and the 49ers. The 49ers gave up so much to trade for Trey Lance. 2 first-round picks to trade up to Trey Lance, to get Trey Lance. I think they went from number 12 up to 3, and the Dolphins went from 12 back up to 6. What did he do? He's on the Cowboys. They wasted so much trying to get him. But what did they do in that span? In that time without those first-round picks? They went to a bunch of Super Bowls. They went to one Super Bowl and lost. Multiple NFC championships. They were good and dynamic throughout that whole time because they happened to pick up Brock Purdy in the later rounds. So they were great. They were a great team, and they continued winning, right? They were winning during that time. And with all those picks that Miami got, what did Miami do? I mean, Miami went to the playoffs. Have they been to the Super Bowl? No. Have they got into the AFC Championship game in that time? No. Did they even get to the divisional round? I can't remember, but I'm going to say no. So, the team that gets all those picks, the only team that has consistently gotten picks, and like the only team that's like accumulates picks and somehow nails all of them, are the Eagles. And that's just Howie Roseman's mind just operates on a different level, right? So like trading up and down, and he knows exactly when to trade a first rounder for another player and when to keep them. That is a masterclass right there. But even if we look at the Deshaun Watson trade, where the Texans got fleeced, or not the Texans got fleeced, the Browns got fleeced for a guy that was supposed to be elite. And turns out he's just a washed up creep. What did the Texans do with those picks? They've got a guard that they traded to someone else. I think it helps them get, but it didn't even help them get Derek Stingley because they only drafted him because they sucked so bad. And CJ Stroud, they only got him because they sucked so bad because they went through 2 years of rebuilding. And then, sure, they had an extra first-round pick so they could trade up and get Will Anderson, who's been playing pretty well. But then what happened the year after that? I mean, they made it to the divisional round, but it's not like they turned into world beaters, right? And obviously the 3 picks being traded, the Browns obviously lost horribly in that deal. So, it's just all to say it's a crapshoot, right? But I don't think you can ever go wrong by energizing your franchise. And when they traded for Deshaun Watson, that wasn't really energizing because there's just so much controversy around him. So the Browns did something that, if anything, alienated their franchise. When the 49ers traded for Trey Lance, I mean, a lot of people were excited, right? It was kind of energizing, except he never played. So it didn't really work. So, barring some horrific injury, we'll have to pray to the injury gods or something. I don't know. Travis Hunter is the player that's going to energize our franchise. And from what I hear, the plan is for him to kind of start at wide receiver and then kind of move over into cornerback and be in those rooms and everything. Again, I think the Jaguars organization, and that's why I love how they've got younger people in charge because they know this is a new thing. And I can see they're going to be willing to adjust the defensive back meetings and the wide receiver meetings and make sure you can be at both and make sure that the wide receiver coach and defensive back coach has time to work with him on both levels. Everyone's going to do their best to make sure that he can succeed because that will help the entire team succeed. No one's going to be like, oh, I'm not doing that for him, or oh, that's stupid, I'm not going to help him out. Like, they are all going to do their best to make Travis Hunter into the best player possible because when they do that, we are going to win more games because our pass defense was ranked dead last, and this is going to help us win more games. Now we got to talk about what the Jaguars actually need going forward and what we did give up to get it, right? Because I agree with this move wholeheartedly, right? And I know it's tough because I think the Jaguars played free agency the right way. And by that I mean they had no idea if they would be able to get Travis Hunter, but they needed to get some contracts off the books. Now I said I'm only comfortable with us getting rid of Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk if we brought in Travis Hunter. That's exactly what we did. And I also said that we should use some of that. And if we brought in Travis Hunter, we can play the slot with Jerry and Jones, and then we can put Travis Hunter on the outside. And we can start him off as the number 2 cornerback and then let him slowly take over as the number 1. What looks like is probably going to happen is we're probably going to start him in the slot and put Jordan Lewis outside. And then as Travis Hunter gets more comfortable, they'll move him into the boundary, maybe into the number 2, and then maybe into the number 1. And then they'll put Jordan Lewis back in the slot when he's ready to go to the boundary because he is going to be a boundary cornerback. That's going to be his spot. So the thing is like we said, we already had Jerry and Jones. Now Jerry and Jones he kind of offers the same inside outside flexibility, but it's going to be tough to kind of work it. It's going to be tough because it's like we still have needs, right, that needed to be filled because we could have used some of that money that we signed Jordan Lewis to try to help with our pass rush or something like that. So that's going to make it a little bit tough. However, cornerback is not too far removed from safety. It's just not. There are a lot of safeties that play nickel, and there are a lot of cornerbacks who can play it inside and out. So if Jordan Lewis wanted to play some safety, if we wanted to do that in training camp, or Jerry and Jones, if we want to see if he can play some safety, that might be a great idea. And I think if we end up, because we have Eric Murray who can start at least for a little bit, I don't think we necessarily have to be in a rush to take a safety in the 3rd round. I think in the 3rd round, there's a lot of rotational pass rushers and defensive tackles that we can still get to boost that defensive line and start to try to make it ferocious, make people scared. Because Mason Smith seems like he's starting to take those steps. I so wish we signed Calais Campbell, but it didn't happen. I would have rather have signed Calais Campbell over Jordan Lewis if I knew we were going the Travis Hunter route. But again, not much we can do about that. That's all in the past. So I think what we're going to end up target is just trying to beef up that defensive line again, get some rotational play. Like if we can find a Jalex Hunt type of player who's a good rotational piece who can come in and rush the passer, that would be excellent. Excellent find in the 3rd round. And we've got 2 3rd-round picks to make it happen. And then there's a safety who's dropped really far. His name is Malachi Worley from Alabama. Alabama defensive players, they are cut different, right? So I would love to be able to draft him maybe in the 5th or 6th round. So if we take him, then I don't necessarily think we need to go safety because my plan was at 36. I would have loved to go safety for the Jaguars. I would have loved to take a safety right there. Xavier Watts in particular, but a lot of safeties are starting to fall down the board. So if one of those top tier safeties like Xavier Watts is there in the 3rd round, I think we rush up to the card to put it in. And maybe a guy like Andrew Matabuka might be an option. He's kind of got a third round grade. I'd love to get someone with a lot of good value. Like I said, Xavier, a lot of good players have been pushed down the board because the draft unfolded kind of strangely to a lot of people. I don't think many people were intending on the draft to unfold this way. So we'll have to see exactly how that goes. But I think our next targets, I think I wouldn't be surprised if we draft defense and we need some offensive line depth, so like a guard center type. But I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of heavily focused on that for the rest of the draft. It's just our secondary was so bad, and we're not going to get a difference maker in the defensive line for the rest of the draft potentially. So that's why I agree with the idea of taking a safety, someone else who can help solidify, so we can get some good coverage. But for right now, like I said, we'll probably end up taking an offensive line depth piece, like a guard slash center, and then taking, someone like an offensive guard or center, and then taking a safety, maybe in the 4th round or the 5th round, and we'll probably get defensive tackle, defensive end, some guys that can just come in because the defensive line and defensive tackle group is very deep this draft, edge and defensive tackle. So I think we have a chance to pick up a good guy in the 3rd round and get the offensive line, and then safety, we'll have to do that in the 4th and 5th round. And safety's always, like I said, that's why I wish we signed Von Holland and kind of went through the fences for safety, because you can always get a good safety for not that much. And I kind of would have preferred to get Javon Holland over Jordan Lewis and Eric Murray. But it is what it is. That's where we're at right now. So let me know your thoughts on the draft. Let me know what your thoughts on the Jaguars finally landing Travis Hunter. I'll go through it real quick with my thoughts on like the 1st round reflection. I was not expecting everybody to pass on Shedeur Sanders. Like, I thought when we took Travis Hunter, the Giants might even go take him. And then the Giants traded back up in the end of the 1st round, and they got Shedeur and they got Jackson Dart. And like, I knew Shedeur was falling on a lot of draft boards, but I didn't know he was falling that far. I didn't know he was falling that far to where he's out of the 1st round. And the Browns passed on him, and they could have traded back into the 1st, right, and picked him, and they didn't. So to me, it's just crazy. It's just crazy how much he's falling. Because even the Steelers, I thought they would take him at 21, and they took some defensive tackle. And so, like, I guess they want Aaron Rodgers, but I feel like if I'm the Steelers, even if I want Aaron Rodgers, I would have taken Shedeur to let him sit. I guess a lot of Steelers fans didn't really want him because they hate taking that quarterback at the bottom of the 1st round. But to me, like, you had a quarterback who was graded high enough to go in the top 5 in a lot of mock drafts. And if he's there for you at 21, that feels like a steal to me. That feels like a steal. And to pass on him, like, I could understand passing on him for a Dual Carter, who's just a really good edge player. I just don't really get why the Steelers did. But hey, a lot of what I heard from Steelers fans, that they didn't want him. They didn't want Shedeur. They want Aaron Rodgers, and they'll just figure it out after that. Because Aaron Rodgers is going to be there for a year, right? So I would have taken Aaron Rodgers. I would have taken Shedeur and then given Aaron Rodgers one last chance to go chase some glory, and then picked up like that defensive tackle in the 2nd round. But hey, that's how Mike Tomlin wants to do it. That's how he'll do it. Even the Saints, like when he went to number 9, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you're unsure about Derek Carr. Maybe Shedeur Sanders can come in and play. But, I mean, the Saints don't have enough around their team for anybody to succeed. So I see why they went offensive tackle. But there's a lot of, and I guess even the Browns might not take him because they got an extra 1st for next year, because I think they feel like next year's quarterback class is better. And I think the Steelers agree. And I'm not sure how far that's going to push Shedeur Sanders down, because everybody feels like the teams that need QB, like the Rams, they're getting ready for next year because they're like, this will probably be Matthew Stafford's last year. The Browns, they picked up an extra 1st this year from us. Looks like they're looking for next year. Steelers passed on him, so it looks like they're also looking for next year. So did the Saints, and those are QB needy teams, right? Even the Raiders passed on him. I mean, I know they just got Geno Smith in, but a lot of people thought that was just because they felt like they were too low in order to get Shadur Sanders. And then they took Genty instead. So I think a lot of people are just looking at because the 2024 quarterback class ended up being loaded, surprisingly loaded. Because you've got Caleb Williams playing for the Bears, who had a solid, if unspectacular season. Jane Daniels, who's already a superstar. Drake May to the Patriots, who's just not really crushing it, but again, showed flashes that he can be the guy. Michael Penix for the Falcons, who started to really put some stuff together at the end of the year. J.J. McCarthy for the Vikings, who didn't even get a chance to play. And then Bo Nix for the Broncos. So 6 guys that went in the first round, and all of them look like they're going to be starters. Like, none of them really look like busts in their first year, at least. None of them had, like, a terrible rookie season, which is very unusual. Like, all of them gave enough in their rookie season to believe like they can keep going. Compare that to Trevor Lawrence's draft class. He's the only guy still starting. And there was 5 taken in the first round. So I don't know if the 2026 draft class will be like that. But in that case too, I'm okay with us trading away our first round pick in a year because that's how we got Brian Thomas Jr. basically, because we were able to trade back because quarterbacks were pushing so many good players down the board. And so it's always great when there's a year that's great for quarterbacks when you're a team that doesn't need a quarterback, because then you can take the best players that get pushed down the board. And some of those players will even fall into the second round. So we'll still have our second rounder next year. Hopefully it'll be like way in the back of the second round. That would be the plan, right? Ideal. But again, a lot of good players will get pushed down because 2026 is supposed to be a really good quarterback class. So there's a lot of cute quarterback needy teams that are just like, yeah, we're just not going to do it this year. And so I guess we'll see exactly what's going to happen. So I'm going through kind of some of the other. Everyone else kind of picked. It kind of made sense. Surprised that the Falcons went. Not really surprised that the Falcons went 2 edge players, but it's like the trade they made with the Rams made sense, right? It's like, yeah, we're gonna give up our first next year because we're gonna take our first this year. And the Rams were like, well, we don't really need anybody to pick in the first round because we want to make sure that we can go get the quarterback that we want. Maybe trade up and go get him next year. So it's fair enough. It makes sense. So yeah, I do think like as the Panthers at number 8, I think they were hoping that I don't think Abdul Carter was ever going to fall to them, but if Mason Graham maybe have slipped a little bit, maybe he could have fell to them. Because I don't think they feel like they need a tackle because their offensive line played a lot better next year. It's just their defense is so bad, and I probably might have taken a defensive player there. But instead the Panthers took a wide receiver. Which is you need Bryce Young again. You need him to feel confident, and even if you start doing the Bengals thing where we just put up like 36 points a game, at least you can feel confident in that pick. But I think I still would have taken a tight end instead, like that Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland, to give yourself some blocking. Because if you got that blocking skill, you can use that to have the run game complement your offense. And I think if we go back to the Jaguars, I think that's kind of the idea that we're going to have for Travis Hunter, because I think my preferred for him is to be a full-time cornerback. And then I don't want to create a package of plays for him on offense because I think that's stupid. If you create a package of plays, teams will just zero him in whenever he's in the game. Like the ball's not coming to him every time he's in the game, right? That's not the idea. The idea is he'll be a full-time cornerback and then he plays wide receiver 2. Like he's our wide receiver 2, right? So Brian Thomas Jr. is on the field for every single play, even if it's a running play, because he's a threat too. But Travis Hunter, there might be sometimes where you want to run 2 tight end sets or 2 running back sets. In that case, you can take Travis Hunter out, put in Bigsby and ETN, and put in Strange and Hunter Long. And it could be a running play, or you could trick them, and it could be a passing play, because Brenton Strange can also catch, and so can Travis Etienne out of the backfield. Or just let Brian Thomas Jr. go for it, So you have a lot of different options there to use, and then because you can switch up your personnel, obviously, and have multiple running backs, have multiple tight ends. So it doesn't mean Travis Hunter has to be on the field for every single offensive snap, but he does need to be there for every single defensive snap, in my mind. But I guess they want to start him as a wide receiver to I think they want to build him that chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. Like if I had to say an ideal ratio, I would say like 75% of the offensive snaps and 100% of the defensive. That would be my ideal ratio for Travis Hunter. But I know his goal is 100-100. That's what he wants. And so I mean, if we can give it to him, we can give it to him. But also, we're gonna need a health coach also to make sure that he's not pushing himself too far and that he's not putting his body under too much strain, because he's gonna get tackled a lot and he's gonna be he'll have more physical activity just because he's doing two positions, and that's gonna be harder on your body. So might have to protect himself from himself sometime. But either way, fantastic addition, worth it. Because again, we had to convince the Browns not to take him and to let us take him. And he's going to have a bigger impact on us than Mason Graham is going to have on them. As far as who they end up taking next year, potentially, but I don't think there's a player out there that would have impacted us the way the Travis Hunter will impact us for the next 5 or 10 years. So let me know your thoughts on the pick. Do you think it was good? Do you think we gave up too much? And don't ever forget, it was always the Jags.